But we can also get intuition through just quick insights, right? Through just simple downloads. Like sometimes you just know something and you don't know why you know it. It's just, that's a knowing. So it's a knowing and a feeling. So I like to call it the knowing feeling. So when you know something and a feel at the same time, it's likely a strong intuition because both your head and your heart are in alignment. So we always talk about like you're getting these drop-ins and these moments of insight, but then you get the flow is when you just sort of go deeper and you unpack it all and you just let all of this stuff come out of you and flow through you into this dimension.
Welcome to my podcast, Spiritual Quest, with me, your host, Vibeke Garnos, always guided by spirit. I am very excited to share my gift with you and empower you to embrace your gift. So if you define yourself as a spiritual human being, then you've come to the right place. So prepare yourself now for an amazing journey where your soul will lead the way. Hello, and welcome to an uplifting and empowering episode on the Spiritual Quest podcast. You know, we all strive for clarity when faced with life-changing decisions, but sometimes our intuitions get lost along the way. At least that's me talking. Fortunately, there are individuals and tools that can guide us back to our true path and help us transcend our current reality. And in today's episode, I'm thrilled to have the queen of intuition, Kim Chestney, join me once again. And this time, she will enlighten us on the power of insight cards and how they can assist us on our spiritual journeys. Kim is a renowned author and teacher devoted to empowering individuals to live extraordinary lives by expanding their intuitive consciousness. Additionally, she is the visionary and founder behind Intuition Lab, a global institute that educates and supports individuals in developing their innate intuitive abilities. I'm so excited to once again welcome Kim Chestney to the Spiritual Quest podcast. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you for having me, Vibeke. It's so great to be back. I'm so excited to dig in today with you.
Oh, I'm so happy you're excited because I've been waiting for this. Like, we have to share this story. I was looking for a podcast guest and I was thinking, I want to dive into cards, tools like that we can use. I was actually contemplating my own personal journey, and my intuition wasn't as strong, and I was willing to allow the guidance of spirit in a different way that I usually do. And so cards came up, and I thought I've been using angel cards prior, and here you were. You just jumped out at me, and I was like, Kim, of course. And there you telling me that you have insight cards, and I was like, this is such an interesting topic because I know it's such a, how would I say it in English? Popular in these times as well. I think a lot of people are interested in finding new tools that can really, really help us move forward and to be true to our path. And so I'm excited for this conversation. But here I'm rambling on because, you know, it's us. We have connection already. So I'm sorry about that. But let's get started. I want the listeners to get to know you, Kim, a little bit. I know we have a podcast where you're sharing most of your story, but would you please enlighten us a little bit about how you ended up, you know, becoming an author and teaching on the topic of intuition?
Yeah, it's just like everything else in life. I think it's you end up places you never expect. I never intended to get here, but my intuition just sort of brought me here, just like it brought us together when we needed each other today. So that's how the universe works, right? So I think for me, it was always an intuitive sort of side of me that kind of yearned to develop. And ever since from a very young age, I sort of had a calling to what are these mysteries of the universe? How do they work? What's going on? These strange things, how are they even possible? So that sort of lifelong curiosity just kind of set me on this path to explore. And before you know it, I'm writing and all of this doors just kind of open. So I'm just so grateful to be here and be able to do this and kind of go into these new frontiers and invite people with me, and really to see where we can go. I started out in technology, even working in technology, and finding out that intuition is really important in the business world and the tech world and in the creative world and in the arts. And so all of that sort of brought me to this place where I'm here to show everybody different ways to tap into intuition, no matter what your life passion is.
Okay, so this is great, but I would love for you to just share a little bit about the little Kim as well. I mean, were you very intuitive as a child?
So the thing with me, yes, I was very intuitive, and I was one of those people that, like, everywhere I lived was like a haunted house. So for me, like, things would happen, unexplainable physical manifestations, like closing doors, and like all kind of different stuff happened when I was very young. So for me, what that started out with saying, okay, there's something else going on here. And is this something I need to be afraid of? And it was so much of my life, and it went into my adult life, that it was something that I really felt like I had to understand. So I think that intuition, it didn't help, like, I was born on Halloween and everything. So all my family like teased me about, oh, I'm a Scorpio, got 6 planets in Scorpio. So very intuitive from a very start. So I really had to understand my world, because my world was a little different, I think, than other people's world. And that's why, I really enjoyed working with your friend Peter Smith and quantum consciousness, because those kind of things really, understanding the quantum reality of the world we live in, start to explain those things and how they're actually possible. And things aren't scary bumps in the nights anymore. They're really just interdimensional occurrences and things that allow us to tap into higher parts of our realities. So it really was a journey of reckoning for me, of understanding the world that I was in, and really then applying that to life in general, and how to own it and control it and all that stuff.
So, for people who don't know too much about quantum physics, but they're into spirituality, could you bridge that for us, please?
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite subjects right now. I'm working on my manuscript for the next book, which is called The Illumination Code, which really talks about intuition as a type of quantum intelligence. So when we're actually talking about intuition, we're talking about a quantum function where the intuitive mind is able to go beyond the limits of time and space, to be able to defy time and instantly know things, right? That's why intuition is so quick and fast and instant. It's something that works in a nonlinear way. So it's different than the reality that we live in on a daily basis, that's very cause and effect. It's instantaneous and it defies time. So really diving into that and non-locality and the ever-present nature of the information that surrounds us and informs our inner wisdom helps us to understand that there's actually a scientific explanation now for intuition, and it's not just woo-woo, right?
Mm.
It's so tied to our heart and soul, because it is connected to that eternal transcendent dimension. But it's not something that we can just dismiss anymore. It's something that science is showing us is a very real thing that we need to look at and develop, just like our regular minds.
Yes, I think that's the key word, develop, because, like I said, I lost. In the beginning, I was like um, questioning myself when I was making a decision which I felt was life transforming for me. And I couldn't, or what happened? I'll ask you, what happened to me in that moment? I'm very intuitive. And I do channel, but in that
Mhm.
moment, I could not get any information coming forth through me. And
Mhm.
I know what happened because I was scared. So I'm going to be honest and say I know myself, so I know. But how can we move past that to really trust in our intuition when we are stuck? Because I felt myself being stuck in the lower vibrations of fear as I was trying to tune into my intuition. I'm going to put this aside. I'm not going to do it. And I was looking for other things to help me.
Yeah. Oh, and that is a problem that happens to all of us. It's something we've all been in that position at some point in time. And the reason for that, we get these intuitive blocks. Well, there's a few reasons why it happens, but mostly it's because there's interference, right? And emotions are a big form of interference. Fears are interference. Even our, like, ambitions and desires can be interference, right? Because we get our mind set on something. So if our minds or our hearts get out of balance, then that sort of knowing, calm knowing feeling of intuition can't get through. So if we're all worked up about something emotionally, and or we have a lot of emotional attachments to a situation, it's very difficult to let those true north feelings of your intuition flow through. And if you're really set on something and you're overthinking something, then you're just sort of overpower those subtle, gentle feelings of your intuition. So the key to getting really clear messages is getting your emotions out of the way, getting your really over focused, overthinking thoughts out of the way, getting into that calm area where you can receive, because it is like a download. It's, you open up and you receive it. And if all of this stuff's happening, then those little waves just can't get through, and the ideas and thoughts and inspiration just can't reach. But there's also one other reason too. Sometimes we're just not supposed to know things, right? And that's something we don't talk about a lot in intuition. But there are times when, we aren't supposed to know every little thing, right? We're in this world because we're in a journey of discovery, and there's things we have to learn for ourselves. So one of the things people say is, well, if a part of us does know everything, why don't we just know every single thing? Okay, but that's not why we're here. We're in a journey to not know. We're in this sort of reduction valve reality where we're going through to have this personal I experience. So sometimes, with like, there'll be things like, you'll hear stories about, oh, something was wrong or someone was sick and I didn't know it. How did my intuition not pick up on that? And people get frustrated, or they get disillusioned in their intuition. But there are times that the universe holds things back for us, for our own good and for our own process of discovery. So it could be that sometimes as well.
You just hit it on the nail on the head. That's exactly what, when I finally let go of my emotions, that's exactly what the order told me. It was like, this is not for you yet. It's
Yep.
like, do focus on what you're meant to be doing, and love what you're doing, and allow it to unfold naturally. And I love the way they say naturally. I was like, okay, I'm forcing it. That's the thing, I'm
Right.
forcing it. Yeah. Okay, well, today we want to dive into insight cards. So first of all, what is the intention behind insight cards?
So I actually developed these, and I'll just preface it a little bit with a little some fun tidbit. Is I designed them myself because I'm an artist. So the designs that you'll see are all are ones that I created from different collages and pieces of artwork. So anyway, but the whole reason I created these was because when we're doing intuition development, we need to really provide space for us to learn from our intuition and start a dialogue with the universe, right? So I kind of call the cards our opportunity to talk with our higher self, right? To start this conversation about our life and receive guidance. And so they're a little different. The insight cards that I call them insight cards because they're a little different than tarot cards. Similar concept. Some tarot cards you could use the same way as insight cards, but you don't need any knowledge of any sort of side system when you use the insight cards. It's all within you. It all comes from your own inner knowledge. So you don't need to know what a hierophant is or any of those kinds of things, right? It's all stuff that is going to come from within. And also it's all high vibration stuff. Nothing scary. You're never going to pull one of these cards and have see like flames and like Satan and stuff like that, right? It's all very safe, very really beautiful imagery for your intuition to work with to convey a message to you.
Good. I'm glad you said that, because my question was, when you wrote insight cards, I was like, okay, I've heard about, or I've used oracle cards, and I've used angel cards. Is there any main difference when it comes to using the insight cards? Is it like another process, or how does it work?
Yeah, so it's the same concept, but it's a slightly different process. So when you pull an insight card, usually you'll start by setting an intention. The first thing we'll do, and we can practice some of this today, is we'll set an intention on a specific area that you want guidance in your life, or even just a general area. Like I call them messages for the moment. Just ask for a message for this moment, some guidance that I need to hear right now to help me through this next step on my path today and the days ahead. You set your intention, and then we pull a card, and I have a free online card deck that you guys can go and practice on and do this on your own. I also have a printed deck, and we're going to use that a little bit today. And then when you turn the card over, instead of trying to interpret it with your mind, which is what we would do a lot of times with a tarot card and oracle card, like, oh, this is a sign, this means this, and you just try to interpret it. What we do is we actually turn it over to our intuition to tell us a story and speak to us from that card. So we go to that card and we look at the very first thing that we notice on that card, right? And then you take that particular thing on the card as your point of departure, as a symbol to kind of open the conversation. That's the conversation starter. And then you look into the card and allow your imagination. So imagination is the gateway to intuition. All right. So when you use your imagination, right, it feels like that's in the beginning. You're still working a little bit, but then you kind of turn it over, and your imagination takes over. That's how creativity works, right? And so you let that imagination go through the card, and it's amazing. The card will start to talk to you in a story, and I can use the same insight card for a group of 50 people in a class, and every single person will come out with a different story in that insight card. That's
Wow.
it's really cool.
Oh, wow. Well, shall we try? Not try.
Yeah,
Let's do it. We
do
never
it.
say try. Let's do this. Let's pull a card, shall we? Would you and the intention you set was perfect. So if we want to use that intention, that would be perfect for what
Right.
the highest good for everyone watching or listening. What do we need right now to know?
Perfect. Perfect. Let's just take a moment and take a deep breath and just soak that in. Just reaffirm that we just want to touch into the universe and ask for a little piece of guidance and wisdom for that next step on our journey to lead us to the highest place and our highest path and purpose. And then I just take a deep breath. And then whenever you're ready, you can turn over your card. And I will just hold up a card here for those of you who are watching the video.
Wow.
There we go. We've
The
got this
first
one.
thing I saw was the bird.
Bird. So that's great. Perfect. So go to the bird, and that'll be the first thing you see. And kind of think about what that bird represents to you.
Freedom,
Freedom.
peace,
Perfect.
um, purity.
Beautiful. Now, what's the next thing you see? Just kind of let your eye wander through the picture.
Um, is it the flowers? It looks like flowers in the tipping scale, or is it crystals? I can't see completely. Maybe it's
It,
crystals.
it's flowers, but
Is
if
these
you want,
flowers? Okay. Yeah, that's
but
the
if
first thing. My intuition said flowers, so I'll see the flowers. So that means for me, nourishment, flourishing, that you need balance to flourish, I guess, to find the peace and to live in alignment and to
Mhm.
be true to or choose to see the beauty, even though it's a tipping scale. Like you have to choose to see the beauty in all everything that happens, even the thing when you don't know what's going on. I would love, to see the beauty of that. That there's always a bright side to it.
This is great. This is great. Keep going with that. Just keep talking with yourself like that and letting those thoughts
Okay.
flow. And start to apply that to your life and see how that
Oh,
resonates
I'm
with.
doing that. I'm doing that right now. I'm really tuning into this. This is perfect. And so I'm being drawn by understanding that. I'm being drawn up to the top of the card where you have the stars and the moon, I think. And it's not completely clear for me, but to me, that is my vision for my life to be shining and using my power and to be in a unit or a co-creator, if you wish, to
Mhm.
use the multidimensional being that I am to create and to trust in that creation. And that will allow me the freedom. But I have
Mhm.
to make sure I focus on the beauty of life and to understand that everything in this reality, the 3D that usually we are affected by some way or the other, it is the tipping scale. It is the good and the bad, or it's how we as humans see ourselves. Or at least I look at myself and my ego as kind of critical and judgmental sometimes. And that is a part of me that I'm learning to embrace and to love. And I have to, by focusing on the flower on the bright side, that
Mm.
would help me to keep that scale. And I would nourish the dark or the critical mind, if you wish. And for
Mhm.
me, just having focused on that side, and even looking at this now, I'm being drawn to the other bird, um, which means to me that no matter if I choose to be in that critical part of me, I will still be able to manage or to align myself with my highest good. It is all about finding the balance and fine tuning and remembering that we are, or I have to love my, those pieces of me as well as the flourishing, but to help me, I should focus on the positive.
Mm.
But I would have to embrace also the critical part of me and not push her away so
Mhm.
much that I might do like I would judge myself. I think that
Mhm.
may be the worst part, that I'm very judgmental towards myself. And
Mhm.
that can filter over to my perspectives on life and judge others. And I need to be aware of that and not focus on that, knowing that that's why I'm here to embrace and to love and to understand that as long as I focus on the other, I don't have to worry about the other part. It doesn't have to, it doesn't weigh on me. Hey, there
Mhm.
you go. It doesn't weigh me down. It doesn't
Ah,
weigh
that's
on
a
me.
good word. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So
That's
that's, yeah.
beautiful. Wow, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like that was perfect. And what you just did, I really encourage people to go that deep into the card and spend that much time there and just contemplate the card. It's a piece of artwork. It's
It's
something, a thing
beautiful.
of beauty that opens up your intuition and will continue to speak to you until you go all the way through it. The
I
message.
just got another message. I'm sorry, I did not want to
Oh, keep
interrupt you, but
going.
I just saw my spirit guides in the picture on the back wall. Whatever is in the wall, the patterns behind it, it's energy. It is all the guides, all the or the spiritual aspect of the multidimensional self that I experience and the different realities and the different dimensions, and they're coming through the background of that card, just
Mm.
reminding that we're part of that big tapestry, that
Yes.
everything is safe and secure. You are well taken care of. You're loved. There's nothing to worry about. There's a greater picture here in play.
And did you notice what just happened? You started talking to yourself in the second person. You started saying, you are okay, you are loved. And that's another sign that you're bringing stuff through when you're starting to channel things that are being communicated to you secondarily. So that you can even see the shift when you start applying it to yourself, and all of a sudden these messages of guidance start coming through from somewhere else. And it's almost as if your higher self, the universe, is speaking to you directly. So that's a
That's how
great
it
sign.
felt, because I know how to channel, and I know when this was my higher self guiding me, and I could feel it because I get goosebumps and I can feel the flow. So
Yeah.
yes, I love that we did that, because that, yeah, it's just such a natural way of doing things if you just give yourself the space to do it. So now I know how to use an insight card, right?
Yeah, and you can pull, like some people pull these once a day, you can pull them once a month. Anytime, and you're when you're doing like your meditation, we'll pull a card and it sort of like helps with the meditative process. So there's a lot of really nice places to use it when you just want to open up space and let your intuition flow. It's a good catalyst for that. Um, Also, I did want to just make a little note. The one thing that you didn't talk about a lot, and I want to say you never uh, touched on this, and that's money. So I thought that
Really?
was really interesting that you just like,
No.
mhm.
I thought that was the ego. That's what I was talking about, the
No,
ego.
it
Now
is,
you just,
it
oh my, oh, wow.
is.
Wow, you have no clue, Kim. This, okay, this is therapy, people. I'm just telling you. This is
I
like you,
was
when you said that was money, that was my ego.
Mhm. Exactly.
And my biggest concern right at this moment in time is money.
And that's the trick, right? So you got the message that you needed right now. right? And then that wasn't where you needed to be looking.
Yep, I did not need to look there.
Yeah,
And the thing is, I also got something else. It's like I think the ego part of me, I have this belief that I've been working on that is the critical, judgmental ego, looking at money and looking at other people. And if you have money, you're not spiritual. Do you
right.
understand? Like, even though I know it, I still have a limiting belief. So I did not see that. I chose not to see it until you told me it was money.
Yeah,
That's interesting, huh? What we choose to see and not.
right. You just didn't even, it was just like a thing, not an issue. And it was not there on the card. You just work your way around it.
Yeah. Wow.
I thought that was
Now I'm
cool.
like, wow, this is therapy. Okay, I'm hot now.
But you know, some magic happens though with intuition. That's how it is, because you get out of that headspace where you think you're organizing everything, and really these things just come to you out of nowhere and kind of touch you in that sort of magical way. That's like, oh, the universe has caught me off guard, and I didn't see that coming. And that's why, you know, intuition's real, because it's not something that you all can make up. It's just something that arrives, and it's something that has that flash of insight. And it was put on me to say that about the money, because I was just like, I should just let it go. But my intuition kept just nudging me to just, oh, tell her she hasn't said anything about the money. You know, that just kept coming up for me over and over again. So that's why I ended up sharing it.
I'm
So
so glad you did because that's the whole point right now. You know, looking at the financial part of the expansion of where I want to go and what is needed, and that being focused on that takes me off my path. I need to focus on the beauty, what I love, to see the gift in everything, and the scale will be balanced. I will receive what I need. I do not have to worry. So if you hadn't told me that, because I just saw the ego, I did not see that there was a picture of the money. I just saw like an image of an ego. I'm being honest. I did not see it. I was blind to it. Isn't that interesting?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think what, you know, the money is a tricky issue too, because it's sort of a win-win lose-lose situation, because oh, you can't be spiritual if you have a lot of money, but then there's this prosperity gospel that says, oh, all of it will come if you're spiritual, you'll be prosperous, and if you're not prosperous, then you're not doing a good job with your spirituality. So the reality with money is it should just not be a factor. It is just it's you just go and do your thing, you put your light out there, and whatever comes, right? And it's all part of this ecosystem of you sharing your light and receiving and giving with the world. And none of it's really about money. Money's doesn't make, it's nonsense anyway. It's a creation of our imagination. It's not even a real thing, right? So if we get that thought out of the way, kind of what you did metaphorically, and just think about what you're doing, putting your heart and soul into every little bit you do, the universe will respond to that heart and soul and give that back to you.
Wow, what a powerful insight card. This was a good showing of how you can actually use that, use the cards.
Yeah.
And it's very much, do you think, I have to ask you because you do teach this, and for those who are listening right now, I'm going to share that you, Kim, will host a masterclass, a live stream masterclass, where people can jump on for free and actually do this work with you. They'll be guided through this technique and they will learn it and how to use it themselves. So that's coming up in October. So we'll have more information about that in the description. But how can we use this for ourselves? I know you're helping me now. You're guiding me through this. If somebody's sitting at home wanting to go in now, what are the best tips you can give them just to start to open up and
Yeah.
to find that truth?
Yeah, that is a really great question. If they want to get started now, first of all, on my website, kimchestney.com, I have a free intuition awakening guide that people can just get, and it kind of is going to outline what I'm about to tell you. But the very first thing that I always tell people we have to do when we want to open up our intuition is create more space. You have to do less. We have to be still. We have to do nothing like it's your job. That's what I always say. Do nothing like it's your job, because we're so conditioned to get out there and do and produce and be busy all the time. But that's just a distraction that keeps us out of our intuitive self. So if we want to be in that self, we have to be open up to receive. So spend more time doing whatever you love alone, going for walks, meditating, doing yoga, dancing, taking hot baths or showers, whatever you like to do to just get into that aimless place where those little intuitive seeds can start to get planted within you. So creating space for intuition is first. So intuition will not be able to get in if we're stressed out, overworked, always worrying about things, right? So we have to create more of that space in our life. And then once we do that, we can start working in with our interests and noticing those little pieces of insight that fall from the sky, and starting to trust those thoughts and feelings that arrive out of nowhere. Just little impetuses. Oh, maybe I should try this, or oh, maybe I should do that. Those are little nudges from your intuition pushing you in the direction towards your growth. Intuition is always about you becoming whole, becoming your true self, rising into your fullest potential. So if you're truly following your intuition, there's never anything to be afraid of. It's your best friend. It is your true guide, your true north. And so when you learn to recognize what your intuition is and trust it, then you put yourself on that path towards happiness and completion and peace and all of those things that we really want.
Mm, good tips. And I'm so agreeing with you when you say give yourself the space. I think that's a necessity in our day and age anyway to connect. There's so much distractions out there. I'm just looking at, how we're trained now to take up our mobile phones and just go through social media and look at what everybody else is doing instead of tuning in and listening. What do I need? What do I feel? Where am I usually ask myself sometimes, because I can feel the difference from if I'm being sucked by my drained or energy drained or sucked by other energies out there, like I'm tuning out and I'm just not listening. I'm not even present. And I remember I was better at that when my children were young, because I used to play with them, and now they're not interested in me that much anymore. But that's the thing. But so it's easier now, I experience, to be sucked out or focused on other energies out there. And so I have a practice in being able to be a pure channel and to do the channeling work that I do every day. I have, like, people won't believe me, but I do like an hour of meditations, cleaning
Mm,
my energy,
mm,
setting my intention. And then when I'm done with that, and if I still feel like I want to surrender and get out of my own way, I pull a card or I do
mm,
something that I usually don't do. Like when I want to get out of the way, I do that. That's my go-to. Usually I just get the downloads, but sometimes it's not working. I can sit for an hour and I still have something I'm struggling with and I have to journal. But in we only have this limited time, right? I mean, people, we have to go to work, we have stuff to do. So it's like, yeah, making those small practices that you're sharing right now, making space in your everyday. Even though I have to do an hour, not everyone channels.
right?
I do that because I want to make sure that when a lot of things are going on, that I'm in alignment. So it's not
Mhm,
for everyone. I'm just sharing how I do it.
mhm.
And then I use the cards. But of course, making time for a walk with a dog, or to
Yes.
just connect with your higher self, to be in nature, to be present in nature, to
Mhm.
see the beauty. Like when I always love getting signs from nature. So
Mm,
when I go for a walk and if I'm contemplating something, I let it go and I ask just for a sign. And I always receive it in nature.
mhm.
Always. It is that's so powerful, but I'm
Yes.
aware of it. I ask for it and I
Yes, and
just
that's
let it go.
Those signs, though, I'm glad you brought that up because they're a great way for the universe to speak to us and to reciprocate, right? When we're putting this stuff out there for our intuition and getting those sort of external validations that, we aren't alone and that we are on this journey together. And there are invisible support systems around us that we can't even imagine, right? So,
Yes.
tuning into those is really powerful. Nature is a great way to do that. And one other thing we can do, I mean, imagine if every time you were tempted to look at your phone, you brought up your cell phone earlier. Imagine if you just set an intention instead, just for a day. Every time I'm tempted to look at my phone, I'm just going to put it down and I'm just going to tune into myself. I'm just going to take a moment and just tune into myself and send myself some love and light, and or look out into nature and just contemplate for a moment. Those little things can make a huge change. It sounds very simple, but it's a shift in lifestyle. Once you start to do that, you start cultivating more openness, and those intuitive insights start to flow more, and you get into that zone where you really start to live in this sort of a tandem of co-creation and communion with life, instead of always being on the outside looking in.
Oh, I love that. And I don't know, but it's like when I walk in nature and really just allow myself to be part of nature, not trying, I'm not thinking, I'm just being present and just allowing. That's where I usually have my most um, profound experiences, like spiritual awakenings. Like I have small moments where I realize things that I might have thought about or contemplated, and I've just let it go because maybe I wasn't ready to see everything like we talked about, like the time wasn't right.
Yes.
Usually I get those ahas in nature. That's how I experience it, especially near water. It was so funny
Yes.
because you told me you were a Scorpio. I didn't know this. And I'm a Scorpio too. And so I decided as a young girl that I needed to live by water because that's my element.
I
And
love it.
yes, so I have ocean view, and I walk down to the beach, and I this is where I kind of I go I become very expansive when I'm walking there by myself and can be in nature and just be by the element of water
Yes.
and replenish myself and just sit there and watch it and allow the if the sun is out and allow the flare of the sun hit the ocean and then in through my eyes and just I watch it. It's just such a magical place, and it reminds me, it usually brings me back to other lifetimes. It's like
Mm.
a trance, and I can
Mhm.
see things, and that's when I get clarity, especially when I'm healing stuff within myself, because the water for me represent going very deep. So I allow that element to help me, I guess, reawaken to that part of me that is still working or dealing with that issue from a previous lifetime or whatever arises within that. So I think what you're saying about nature and all the signs is, I I feel sometimes that that's what fulfills my life at the moment.
Yeah, and part of that has to do with vibration. So when you go into that space and you're in, first of all, nature is just such a clean, clear, high vibration, right? We've got all the noise of human mind out of that energy field and all the other stuff. So you're already putting yourself into this beautiful high vibrational space. You go out to the beach, you see the sunlight, another thing that raises your vibration. So you're nurturing yourself with this light, with all these nutrients from vitamin D. You're in this beautiful space. And what does that do? It uplifts you energetically. And it's that uplifted space that allows us to tune into that high frequency, high vibration, intuitive information. So the place of joy and happiness and bliss, that's where we touch into our intuition. That's where you find it. That's where it's located. So I realized this at an early age. I started having out of body experiences after I've had really good days. Like I go to bed happy, and I was like, why is this happening when I'm so happy? And the alignment is frequency, right? Because that energy up there is that joyful, uplifted vibration. And so to touch it, to interface with it, we have to uplift ourselves. So it makes sense to me that you're getting all of this stuff, even past life stuff, because it's held in those high vibration ethers that you can't touch when you're down here in the muck that we're in every day.
You're right. And that's why I love the way you help people to realize this, to use intuition for that purpose of actually finding peace. And through that peace, you open yourself up to all that wonderful information that is guiding you, that is the multidimensional selves. And it's bringing you not only it's bringing you gifts. I've acknowledged that myself when I'm really tuning inward and I'm allowing the flow, because to me intuition is flow. So when I
Mhm.
realize that my intuition is coming forward and I can trust it, it's a flow feeling for me. It's not a questioning. I is that different for everyone, do you think? Is that unique for everyone, how they experience the intuition coming forward? What is your experience with that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I do think that different people experience intuition differently. There's no doubt about it. We're all wired a little differently. And that's what makes it really interesting when I teach intuition, because I have to teach to such unique personalities. There's just no one singular formula for it. But there are some overlying principles, right? So that's the thing. There's a framework. And I think in general, there's really two general ways that we process intuition, which was through the mind or through the heart, right? And they're also connected to the body, like our body does feels things too. But in your case, the intuition of the heart is the flow. It's that like creative flow. It's the inspirational flow. It's like you're a channeler, you're a writer, all that stuff is just part of the flow of how intuition manifests itself and comes into this world. But we can also get intuition through just quick insights, right? Through just simple downloads. Like sometimes you just know something and you don't know why you know it. It's just that's a knowing. So it's a knowing and a feeling. So I like to call it the knowing feeling. So when you know something and a feel at the same time, it's likely a strong intuition because both your head and your heart are in alignment. So we always talk about like you're getting these drop-ins and these moments of insight, but then you get the flow is when you just sort of go deeper and you unpack it all and you just let all of this stuff come out of you and flow through you into this dimension.
Oh, I love that, the way you describe that, because I do acknowledge both of those experiences. And usually, like you said, the flow is something I'm very comfortable with, but I do get the knowing, like when suddenly I just know. There's no
Right?
question. I mean, it's like, oh, this is the
Oh,
right way for me to do it. This is the way it's supposed to be for me right now, or whatever that looks like. But the flow part, I guess, is also I want to address something because I think um, sometimes people question what is um, your higher self when you channel and you use your intuition. So where does the intuition, or does it go through your higher self? This is what I'm trying to find the right question to ask you. But where does it come from? Does it come to you?
so this is great. I'm glad you asked that question because this is what my new book is about. So after I wrote Radical Intuition, that was really focused on our human experience of intuition, right? This is how it works within us. This is how to use it. This is how to develop it. And I wrote this whole book, and then the next step was like, well, but where does it really come from? Like, where are we getting this information? Like, what is our inner guidance system? What's the source of that information? We know we get it, but where's it coming from? And so, um, I came across a really wonderful book and met with a really wonderful physicist named Dr. Irvin Laszlo. I'm not sure if you know who he is, who wrote the book Science in the Akashic Field. And this book was for me, is a real game changer in terms of understanding the reality of intuition in terms of science. And he is a huge advocate of intuition and psychic ability, which you don't see a lot in a Nobel Prize winning physicist. So obviously, I love him. And so the idea, that we've extrapolated from all of this and from a lot of the theories that he put forward about his field of everything is that there is a non-local field of information. And this is a scientific fact. This part isn't just, intuition. There is a non-local field of information that connects things in the physical world, which is why we have quantum experiences like entanglement, like two objects on different sides of the planet that are affecting each other, even though they're like so far apart. You've probably experienced entanglement if you thought of someone and then like they send you an email or they show up with tarot cards, right? That kind of thing. That's entanglement, right? So we were entangled, and all of this stuff comes through like synchronicity. So understanding that there's a part of us that knows everything, right? So this is what I talk about. This part of us this multidimensional self that you talk about is a part of us that knows everything, part of us that has access to all of the information, past, present, and future, that's stored in the universe around us, because we know there's not really anything as so any such thing as time. It's just an illusion of us being here in this container of reality. Then everything that's ever happened has already happened, and everything that will happen has already happened in a sense. So a part of us has access to all of that inner wisdom information, and can we can tap into that by raising our vibration and our frequency to a higher level, where we can start accessing bits and pieces of it. Some of this stuff is so high vibration that we can't possibly know all of those things, like all the mysteries of the universe, but we can get little pieces of it. We can get little moments of a past life information. We can get a little moment of guidance about our future. We can get little glimpses of hidden realities and other realms. So that's where we're at in terms of our brains and what we can handle. But it's out there, and it is our higher self in general. I would equate that with that multidimensional self, that part of us that goes beyond this reality, but is still connected and interfaces with us here.
I love the way you describe that because that makes completely sense to me. Because my perspective of, or my experiences when I've been doing channeling or I've been doing past life regressions or life between lives hypnotherapy, I remember I was brought back to the place where I did my life choice for this lifetime, a remembrance of why I chose this incarnation and this physical body and why I chose it. And I remember them showing me I guess, the energy of that place was reflecting different ways of me journeying through this lifetime. And I saw three pathways in that lifetime. And I could see and experience that I was living on both, and I could parallel jump on these timelines for this life. So for me, I experienced in that moment that there was energy that was already a sense, a part of me living on those three pathways. And the best pathway and all of them would kind of help me, I guess, for my purpose in this life. But there was a harder one, an easier one, and a flow one, if you wish. And I've experienced in this lifetime remembrance of that, and being shown that I could parallel jump these realities within myself. I'm trying to find words, Kim. If you can't understand me, please ask. But
Oh, that's good.
I was jumping on this. It was an experience of moving and activating what I call these light paths that would kind of light up another understanding of my path, and I could choose in that moment to stay on that path or to move over to the next one. So I
Mhm.
feel like I've been jumping kind of in my life, and if I
Mhm.
look through the eyes of the human looking at my timeline, I could see the shifts in me from when I consciously
Mhm.
jumped the light
Mhm.
paths. But it's not something I'm walking around thinking about. This is big concepts, but I had that viewing and I understand when that shift happens. And it's because it's actually energy download and a frequency adjustment. And I don't feel like myself anymore. And I
Mhm.
realized that I was jumping. I was now on that directory that I saw on that energy or that light path.
Mhm.
And I chose that somehow. I wasn't
Mhm.
conscious of my choosing it, but I was conscious of the vibrational change of me flipping over and then understanding of being aware what happened. Is that something what you're describing now as the multidimensional self? I'm trying to understand.
Oh, yes, yes, because I mean, and that's just case in point of what's possible to understand when we grow into our intuition, right? Our intuition is the vehicle for us to process those kinds of things. That we can't figure it out with our thinking minds. We can't sit and think rationally, this is what I did. But our intuition is this faculty that allows us to interface with these other dimensions. And I think it's such a fascinating conversation, the things that you just talked about, and these ideas of alternate realities and the different ways that we can affect our lives, by even connecting interdimensionally with ourselves in different ways. So yeah, so I feel like in terms of, whether it's some sort of dimension of ourself in a parallel life, or whether it is our eternal self that is above all lives and is sort of our quote unquote God self, right? That sort of part of us that is the most omniscient sort of dimension of our being, sort of plugged into that universal database of all experience and everything that's ever happened. So you can look at it as something very much akin to our personality and close to us, and you can also look at it as something that's really just, I kind of look at it as where we're going, as our whole self, that our higher self is that whole self that we've somehow got a little detached from, and that we're moving back towards a wholeness as we reconcile all of this stuff that we've done in these different realities, and both sides of our mind, using our thinking mind and our intuitive mind, and becoming whole again.
Waking up to all that you're saying right now and being to reawaken to that. This is the reawaken to the power of the universe. And we're actually talking about that power right now. And we all have that power. And we all, I guess, have our own perspectives on how that unfolds within our journeys. But as you're opening up and we're having this conversation, this is pretty high vibrational energy work. And so looking at the world that we are in at this moment in time, and I'm saying in time because how the time continuous. And so, how would you intuitively share your thoughts about why we are experiencing what we are experiencing at this moment?
Like specifically, you mean in general as humanity, or
Yeah.
us personally, like humanity wise?
Humanity wise, yeah, like all of us going through this. Yeah.
Well, okay, so that's a big topic, and I think that I think intuition is really actually key to all of it right now, because um, the fact that we're becoming more aware of intuition, and the fact that quantum physics is now proving that intuition exists, is part of our sort of growth and our emergence as the sort of new human being, as this kind of human being that has these higher potentials. You hear a lot of people talking about the superhuman and things like that. But, if you're really thinking about us in terms of evolution, we've got to change. Something has to change here, or we're going to kill ourselves. We're going to destroy the planet. Something has to shift. And that's one of the things about, you read in Dr. Urban Laszlo's books, he talks about this, is how important right now we are on this sort of the brink of, either this is going to collapse or we're going to turn into something beautiful and grow, right? And our intuition is really key here to help us it in so many ways, because it opens us up to the bigger reality of life, the bigger picture of life, to our personal power, and it brings us together, right? What does the mind do? The mind separates us. It's divisive. It judges. Our egos are, my ego is better than your ego. We gotta get out of the mind and get into our intuition, and it will bring us together and unite us. And that's what we have to do ultimately, I think.
Oh, love it. Dimension of unity. That's what my spirit guide has talked about from day
Mm,
one when I started to channel,
mm.
to help people journey on their life path and to embrace the heart vibration, to activate that dimension of unity that we will create, and then to move together onto the rainbow path, which they speak of as the five dimensional state
Yes.
of beingness. And
Yes.
so I've experienced all of it, but it's 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 like bungee jumping sometimes, Kim. I can be there and I'm like, poof, I'm like way back down there again. I'm like, this lifetime is like, this is crazy stuff. We're like extremists coming down to earth, doing this kind of work and having
Yes.
that energy. And wow. I mean, we all need to be celebrated, I think, for doing this. And I feel like in this time, people like you and I and everybody doing the spiritual work and sharing our gifts with the world, we need to be celebrated. It's our time now. We're
Yes.
not saying it from an ego perspective. I'm saying it from a heart perspective that this is our time to shine. This is our time to be accepted and to allow ourselves just to be who we are and be accepted and loved for that. Because
Yeah.
we are here to support all of you. That's why we're here. We're here
Yep.
to, yeah. And I so appreciate you, Kim, seriously, for, everything that you bring to the conversation and everything that you do. And I'm so excited for your book. So when is your book coming out?
April 2024.
Okay, so you got a little way to go, but it's coming.
Yes.
Well, time flies, doesn't it?
Right.
Yes. Okay.
We're fine tuning the manuscript. New World Libraries publishing it again, and it's in editing. So, but yeah, so we're getting gear in the spring and start talking about more fun stuff.
Ooh, I'll have to have you back so you can talk about the book as well. Share it. Yes,
Yep.
would love that. Okay, so before we end this conversation, I want to ask you: is there anything, and I want you to use now your intuition. Use it. You might want to pull a card as well. You choose whatever you want. Um, Anything you want to share? Words of inspiration for the audience today.
Let's do it. I'll pull a card and we'll see what
Yes.
the card says. How about that? I think
Yes.
that's a fun way to wrap things up. Well, my card jumped right out, and the card is the Buddha. How appropriate for our conversation. Sitting peacefully with his hand over his heart and the stars over his head, finding his peace, not letting the world bother him, and moving into those higher states of unity. What did you call that?
The
A dimension.
dimension of unity.
I think this is a good dimension of unity card.
Oh,
So
I love
I'd
it.
say it's validation.
And that I just have to, I noticed one thing. There's 7 stars.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I call my star team. Sorry,
No
so
way.
the order of 7. So I was like,
No
7.
way.
They were like pointing at that. And I'm like, okay, so they're represented. At least for me, they are. I love it. I love it. I love
Yes.
it. I love it.
Absolutely, and that's why these are here. These cards are so great for validations like that. That's why I pull them. That is a beautiful, and that spoke to your intuition. And I have no doubt that this card was pulled to give you that message too. So that was a really great validation of your own people and your own intuition.
Wow. Thank
Fantastic.
you. Oh, thank you so much, Kim, for yet another inspiring conversation.
My pleasure.
Truly appreciate you and coming on, sharing your insights cards with us. That was wonderful. And I
Thank
want to
you.
make sure, I want to repeat, I have to repeat, Kim, and listen up, everyone. If you want to go even deeper and learn how to work with insights cards, then make sure you sign up for the Spiritual Quest Newsflash, and you'll get an invitation to join Kim when she hosts the Spiritual Quest Livestream Masterclass. And it's titled Quantum Intelligence Using Intuition to Unlock the Magic of the Universe. I'm so excited. Did you hear that? I'm so excited. Can't wait. Okay, so to learn more about how you can join us for free, please check out the episode description. And one more last thing. If these conversations light you up, please share them with the world and leave a review in your favorite podcast app. That would make my heart bubble with joy. Thank you again, Kim. And
No.
thank you, everyone, for joining us. Sending you much love and light from me, your host, Viveke Garnos, always guided by spirit. Bye, Kim. Bye, everyone.